Language is the most important aspect of humans' communications, because without language, humans will not be capable to interact with one another. But what will happen if you're living in a situation that forces you to be unexposed to the specific language? Today, I'm gonna tell you the stories of humans being unexposed to the human's language because they were living in a wild or isolated environment. Let's find out. Well, the first one is one of my favorite. It is Helen Keller. So she was an American author, disability rights advocate, political activist, a lecturer, and she was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. She lost her sight and hearing after both of the age of 19 months. And during her language learning process, she actually been through a lot of ups and downs. But after a long journey of finding a tutor, Helen finally met Sullivan, a recent graduate of Perkins University. And together with Sullivan, Helen succeeded to show a good progress through learning style which involved sense of touching. After that, she then started to learn how to produce speech with the help of Sullivan. Even the way she talks is way too strained due to its monotonous and high-pitched sound. And after that, Helen went on to learn to read and produce braille. So Helen Keller is actually the epitome of how a person can make impossible to possible and inspire so many people that sets her as example. So it is actually a very interesting story, like how you see that Helen Keller is actually unable to do, like producing language properly at first, and after that she went on training, a lot of training. Pardon my nephew. She went through a lot of training with Sullivan and then finally succeed to, at least trying to learn the language. So yeah. Another case is about Victor, a possible 11 or 12 years old boy found in the woods in France. He began to start his recovery by assigning in Jean-Marc Gasper. His learning style involved games and such activities to make him aware of his surroundings. After Either abandoned to teach him with the old learning style by imitations, Either started to teach him to read and write using the cards. During the process, Victor then shows a good progress of learning outcomes in less than a year. The most interesting fact about Victor's learning process is that the learning process takes more than just learning the alphabet or the contextual, but also in producing the sound. So you know how hard it is. The story of Either and Victor's of a Pharaoh would later inspire the Francois throughout films to make this film called The Wild Child. I think that his incapability to, using the human's language is very normal because he was alone in that forest, but what surprised me is actually he's still alive. You know how hard it is to survive in that forest. There are a lot of things like animals that you will never expect there. And I think that the fact that he was still alive was something that is really amazing because not all people will have the chance to still alive living in this forest alone. I mean, I really thought that the story would be going about a kid being raised by a dog or even a wolves in the forest, but it turns out it was just a kid living in the forest alone and survive. Such an interesting story. The next story is about Jenny. She is a 13-year-old girl found in California. She was physically abused and locked in a small room by his father for 12 years. And after being rescued, Jenny was receiving her freedom to live her life. But the extra caring of education seems never enough for her to, achieving the normal standards of human language use because the aptitude test indicated that Jenny had the mental age of a 13-month-old baby. She had no understanding of grammar and she only knew two phrases like stop it and no more. Yet the test also indicated that Jenny had no neurological disorders, mental disorders, school abnormalities, or chromosomes damage. She then placed in a home for retarded adult. What really, really need to understand is that what happened to Jenny is actually intentional because his father actually locked him for a purpose, like intentionally put her there. and it was very poor for her. Like during the learning process, actually it takes more than just the learning process, because there are a lot of things happen to her, and traumatizing was one of the major factors that she really need to fight in her life. So before trying to learn or trying to enter the education process, there are a lot of things that she need to heal first, and I guess that's the biggest problem why it's very hard for her to, like becoming a normal person like us, and that's normal. It was very poor. Well, honestly, there are a lot of cases of human being unexposed to language, and some cases are intentional and some cases are not. I can't tell all of them here because we have limited time, but I can tell you that all of these stories told us that the most important thing of children, one of the most important thing that we have to teach our children is actually language, because it might affect them. The earlier you teach them to know the language, the the better opportunities they will have to mastering that language. Because as humans, language is very important. The moment we are not having the capability to produce sounds or trying to communicate, we will lose it all, because everything you need in this world, you have to communicate. In regular basis, everything you do, we have to communicate. Communicate is the only way we can connect to each other, because without communications, without language, everything is impossible. And these children's, all these cases taught us about the importance of language, the roles of language in this world, and how important it is for us to ensure that our children receive enough educations. Like they have to be exposed to languages earlier as possible, so that they would have the opportunities to grow as normal persons. So yeah, I think that's enough, and I thank you so much for your attention.